Welcome to the Middle AGEish podcast. Authentically and unapologetically keeping it real. Discussing all things middle-age-ish. A time when metabolism slows and confidence grows. Join fashion and fitness entrepreneur Ashley Badowski, former Celtic woman and founder of the Lisa Kelly Voice Academy, Lisa Kelly, licensed psychologist and mental health expert, Dr. Pam Wright, and highly sought-after cosmetic injector and board-certified nurse practitioner, Trisha Kennedy Roman. Join your hosts on the journey of Middle AGEish.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Middle AGEish. I'm your host, Lisa Kelly, and I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Ashley Badowski, Trisha Kennedy Roman, and Dr. Pam Wright. Tonight we are so excited to speak with our guest, Marc Paisant. Marc is a former collegiate athlete who uses physical fitness to assist with mental health. He's a certified personal trainer and the host of the Relatively Normal podcast. I love that name.
I do too.
It's so good. And the 6 a.m. Run podcast. That's something I've never done though. But anyway, my favorite part about your podcast was focusing on the open discussion about coping with anxiety, ADHD and depression, and how to manage those symptoms and diminish the stigma that surrounds mental health. Welcome to Middle AGEish, Marc. We're very excited to speak to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Your podcasts were just great. I spent the last 2 days immersed in them.
I know.
And we all have spoken about how relaxing your voice is.
I know.
You have this beautiful voice. It's fabulous. Do you sing?
No, you don't. Well, hold on. Let me take that back.
I feel like there's a story there. Hold on.
I sing poorly to embarrass my children. That's what I do.
I don't believe it. The sound is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Your timing and everything. I was like, this is
You are very
literally
calming.
music to my ears. So would you like to tell everybody your story?
Oh, my story. That is... I'd like to preface it by saying that at no point in my story does like something horrific or tragic or so traumatic that you're like, oh yeah, I definitely see where that guy gets XYZ from or why he feels this way. Or, I grew up literally in a house probably 20 to 25 minutes from where I am right now in Norcross, Georgia. I was born in New Orleans, thus the French last name. And I'm part of a set of twins. My brother Michael is a naval officer. I have an older sister, and we grew up in a normal suburban household with my dad leaving for work every day and my mom taking care of my brother and I, and then when we got old enough, she went to work and part-time that turned to full-time, and we played sports, and it's like, oh, outside looking in, family's got it together. Mm-hmm. And we did, for the most part, we did. Sister was very protective of her little brothers, and even though before teenagers we were taller than her, we're still her little brothers. And I'm 6'5", and my brother is the same height, and we were always tall, always had people assuming that we're older than we were. But, looking back, being a twin, people always say, that must be great. That must be awesome. Like you have a forever friend, which I do. Like I love my brother, and I think it was great to grow up as a twin. He was naturally gifted in ways that I wasn't. Mm-hmm. I mean, thus he's a nuclear engineer and a naval officer. So you guys take whatever assumption you have about him. He's extremely smart. And he was extremely stubborn and stoic and got his way. And I was hey, I'm going to make everybody laugh. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be the center of attention. I'm going to, schoolwork. It's important, but it'll come around. And, we both went to play in college for soccer. And, at that point is where my story really starts, because I was thrown into a group of young men where every one of us was the best in our team. Mm-hmm. Some of us were the best in the state. Some of us the best in the region. Some of us the best in the country. And I always looked at sports as like, I'm going to have fun. Like, these are my friends. Like, if I'm good, that's great. I'm going to work hard. But I got thrown into a group of guys that literally ate, drank, slept, studied. Everything was soccer. Everything was soccer. And the only reason that my roommate and I became so close is because we both came to agreement that we don't want to live with soccer guys. Like the last 2.5 years of college, everybody was like, hey, we're going to live together. We're going to live together. And Andy, my best friend in college, were like, hey, I don't want to live with any of these guys. It's like, yeah, I nothing against them. I'm friends with a bunch of them, but it was just too intense. And I think at that point I started to wonder, was I built for this? Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, I started to really doubt my skills, doubt just everything about me. Was the happy-go-lucky personality just a mask? Was it me trying to cope with something? I'm always pushing these feelings to the back. I tried to be someone that I wasn't for the longest time. And that was the part that bugged me for the longest time. It really did, because I've always been a person that's like, be authentic, be true to yourself. And I know everybody was probably thinking that, I'm in my young 20s and he's trying to find himself and he's just figuring out what's going on. But looking back, there were some things in my life that I was putting to the side. I wasn't focusing on, wasn't prioritizing. And the biggest thing was me. Mm-hmm. Like, I am an overly empathetic person, and I will give you the shirt off my back. I will do anything for you. I will wake up at any time of the day or night to come. I would do anything for anyone else, but I wouldn't do any of those things for myself. Mm-hmm. I thought I wasn't worthy of it. I thought I can't tell you where that thought came from, but for the longest time I was, and I hate to be cliche, pouring from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So through my 20s, I'm gaining a lot of weight. I'm finding a lot of comfort in food, finding a lot of comfort in drinking, finding a lot of comfort in snacking, not eating right, not taking care of myself. Ended up getting fired from a job that was absolutely the worst fit for me. At a certain point, I talk about it all the time, where I was driving on a highway late at night and I just wanted to veer my truck into oncoming traffic. Like, I literally just wanted to do that. And the thought in my head was like, if I do this, like, someone has to listen. Like, someone has to ask Mark what's wrong. And thank goodness I didn't do it. That started the second part of my therapy journey and really got me to start to think about what was important. Was it my work? Was it my family? Was it my friends? Was it the money I made? Was it any of that? And it's like, wait a second, you put it together. It's like, you're the common denominator of all those things. Mm-hmm. Like making money, having friends, having a job, starting a family, owning, like, you can't do any of those things without yourself. Mm-hmm. So that kind of got me into this area where I'm in, where at certain points in my life, I would work on my physical fitness and kind of forget about what was happening upstairs. Other parts, I would go to therapy, mindfulness, meditation, and kind of let myself go. And it's like, wait, I think I'm starting to see something connected here. Mm-hmm. And, I started running a lot. And I tell people all the time, like, I would run for health reasons, fitness reasons, but I'd also run for stress relief, and I'd run, but the wrong kind. I'd run to go away from it. Whenever something would happen at work, I was stressed, go for a run, forget about it. Everybody kind of says that, a lot of runners say that. But then I'd come home and I'd be like, man, I still got to deal with this. Yeah. And I made just a little shift. This is probably 2 years ago, 3 years. This wasn't that long ago, where I was like, I'm going to run to figure this out. I'm going to lean into it. Mm-hmm. So, and what would happen, and instead of me not thinking about it or attempting to not think about it on my run, I would think about it. And then I come home with like 100 different ideas and feeling refreshed and feeling rejuvenated. And it just kind of clicked for me that I can combine the two. And that's kind of just led me to where I am today. And of course, in there's podcasts and there's families and there's moving and there's all that stuff. So it's just me, again, like, go back in that story and tell me where, like, you'd pick out, oh, that was terrible. I mean, I'm not going to say anything was terrible. I'm just going to say, like, I had to find myself and start prioritizing myself, and I wouldn't do it any other way.
Was it difficult? I'm making an assumption, but as a man, as an athlete, to go to say you wanted to go to therapy, I just picture, being big and tough and, having to realize that I need to ask for help and getting therapy. Was that difficult in that position for you?
Yes and no. Like generally that question is a yes. Like that's, but I remember it was difficult for me to stay in that space and not do something. Mm-hmm. Like, because I never in my life had I hated going to soccer practice. Never in my life had I hated like being around. Like I wasn't playing well mentally. I wasn't there. And I remember this is during spring season. So it's not the full season. Soccer in college is a fall winter season. So when spring hits, we have just not as many practices and just a couple games. And I remember I was leaving one practice a week about 30 minutes early. And usually guys would leave once or twice to go to a physical training or physical therapy or go to a doctor's appointment, or if they had to talk to a teacher, whatever. I was leaving constantly for like 3 weeks in a row. And finally, my goalkeeper coach, Todd Bramble, who's up at George Mason now, he said, Paisant, let me talk to you real quick. And I was like, hey, he's like, you're going to the doctor again? And I like looked around me and I was like, I'm going to therapy. And he was like, oh, okay, no problem. Go ahead and go. And I think if it would have been my head coach, God rest his soul, it would have been a different conversation.
Right.
But to answer your question, like at that point, I was so like deep in a dark place where nothing really, I was numb. I was absolutely numb. So nothing was tough or difficult or hard. I was like just dragging myself through life.
It must be really hard though, going to therapy, feeling like that when you can't describe why you feel that way. Like you said, it wasn't like there was a big event in your life.
Right.
That's always been a question of mine. Like, going to therapy, like how do you talk about your feelings if there hasn't been something that triggers it, or if you don't know what's triggered the problem in you?
I love that question because people need to understand, and this is why I do what I do and talk about it the way I talk about it, is that there's always this like negative connotation, or like when we picture therapy, when we see it in a great example is like, even if in shows like The Sopranos, like you see therapy and it's like, okay, he has to go in there and talk all this. And she's like psychoanalyzing him. And then other times you see it where it's a dark, deep place. And all we talk about is these negative feelings. It's like, no, we have to change that perception because
amen.
Yeah.
The psychologist is saying, amen.
Yes, please.
This is not how therapy works. People are like, do I just need to lay down? Are you going to turn off the lights? Why aren't you writing anything? And I'm like, because that's not what real therapy is. You're so right, though. That's like the misnomer.
And the funny part about it is people will be like, you know what? I had a good day today. I don't think I'm going to go to therapy today. And it's like, no, you go.
But you had a good day because of therapy at some point. Yes.
So true.
It's like when we talk about mental health, it's like, no, like the feelings we have aren't just depression, anxiety. Like we have joy, we have happiness, we have, it's a spectrum of these emotions. And if we just like give all of our attention to the ones that we think are bad or not productive or unproductive, then we're not doing we're literally placing all the importance of priority on the ones that we quote unquote hear about that are bad. And it's like, I appreciate as much of the rain clouds as I can because that makes me appreciate the sunshine that much more, and vice versa.
Yeah. So true.
I'm impressed that just as a young man and busy with sports in college that you had the mindset to know you needed to go to therapy.
I know, the self-awareness of that.
That's something, and I will be 1,000% honest with you. I have no idea why I went. To this day, I don't know why I walked in. We had a health and human services building at Clemson. That's where I went to school. And I'd walk by it a couple times to go to class. And, kids would go in to get, go see a doctor for cold, antibiotics, things like that. There was an actual doctor in there too. And I must have walked in with somebody one day and saw therapy or saw somebody there to speak because, I knew a little bit about it because being an empathetic child in middle school, I don't know if you ladies had this, but we had a program where kids could sign up to learn about how to talk to other kids who were going through things. So whenever there was like God forbid, something bad happened to somebody at the school or their parents, my middle school, we had one of the students there, their parents their store was robbed. And unfortunately her mother was killed in that. And so kids had trauma. So you would set up that this counselor couldn't talk to 15 kids at once, and really, so they would have kids come and learn and how to listen to other children and kind of work off of them. And so I was one of those children. I was one of those 6th, 7th, or 8th graders that did that. And I really found an appreciation for just the art of listening and the art of like, I don't have to say anything or solve your problems for you. Like, I don't have to do that. It's actually better if I don't.
Right.
But I can't tell you what made me do that. However, the first time I went in there, and I remember talking like I'm talking to you, and in my head, I'm like, okay, when's he going to butt in? Like, when's he going to say something? When's he going to fix me? Like, okay, your turn. And he just listened intently. And I was like, this feels really awkward, but good. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm telling him I don't really like going to school. I don't like playing on the soccer team. I want to quit. I want to do this. And I'm just waiting for him to be like, no, don't quit. Don't. Everybody else would do, Right. And he just sat there and listened. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming back next week.
Yeah.
But I still say the self-awareness at that age, because I think that's one of the things that people struggle with the most, even at our age, is, no, it's going to be fine. I'm good. It's just a bad day. But to have the self-awareness to say, no, I want better. I want to do better, be better, but I need help. I mean, that just takes such courage to do that, and to do it at such a young age, I think is amazing.
Well, I think your podcast is amazing, but I like how you really normalize that it's okay to need to ask for help, that it's okay to have anxiety, because you nothing really traumatic did happen to you, and you're not, you wouldn't look at you and think, okay, he needed therapy.
Right.
And I think that so many people just have, it's hard for them to reach out and get that help. And I think it's just great how you normalize that, gosh, we all could use help here and there. And, we all can suffer from anxiety and depression, and you don't have to have had some major life event to have, those issues.
Yeah, and I think the world is hard enough these days, though, as well. So even if you don't have triggers or things that happen to you, just existing in this world, especially in the last couple of years, has just been so hard for everybody. Right. It's been so hard on everyone.
That's the thing about it, is that if all of us are going through it or going through something, I'll tell you right now, I am a very pragmatic, simple thinker. It's just how my brain likes it. My brain likes things to be simple, me to simplify it, be pragmatic. And I always think to myself, like, if I'm going through this, like, I'm sure a lot more people are too.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, if the 6'5", 235-pound black man is up here talking about his feelings and emotions, somebody else can be like, well, if that guy did it, and everybody's cool with it, right? Like, then I can do it too.
Yeah.
And because I came from a place where I never felt comfortable talking about these things until the first, and this is going to sound silly, until the first time I actually did it. And it was like, oh, that's what that's like, to open up. I don't know what's that. This must be something. And it turns out the whole time it was me just being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, it's one of those things where we make things that are truly simple. And again, I'm a simple thinker. Make things that are truly simple. I get hurt. I hurt my knee. I go to the doctor. I get there's a death in my family. Oh, this is the time I should really hold all this in. and it's like, no, this. Remember the knee? Like the knee thing? You were cool with going out. Like, this is the same process, but you just can't see it. And that's what I understand. That's what makes it so tough. But I'm just trying to normalize everything about this and make sure that people just feel comfortable. I'm the person that if we're all getting together and we're all in the same room and no one knows each other, and I know that feeling of small talk and that just awkwardness, I'm the one jumping right into it because I'm like, okay, I got to do it. I got to do it because if I put myself out there, everyone else is going to start to feel more comfortable. Yeah. Because that's my nature.
I was going to say, I love everything you're saying. You can hear your empathy. And because you're worried, always worried about the other person, I could tell even with what you're doing with your podcast, with talking about that, it's pretty cool how you're always considering everyone else's feelings.
Well, I think the world needs more empathy.
Yeah. I think that's the trend though that I see in my practice now is that people will come in and bring their kids and bring, their elderly parents or people that they're worried about, but they don't come themselves. Mm-hmm. And you can tell while they're talking to you that, oh, my son's going through this or my daughter. And you can tell so badly they need to be there themselves, but they're the last person. It's almost like, well, when everybody else gets fixed, then I'll come in for me. And I think in middle age, a lot of people don't do that. They're thinking so much about, their parents or their children that's kind of the last case scenario. But honestly, them getting well helps everyone else to get better too. So
I had this conversation with one of my good buddies. I won't mention his or her name. Well, I guess I said
it's okay.
That's okay. We won't tell.
But I remember, and he and I have very open and honest conversations, and I really appreciate that about him. But he called me one day, and I could tell he was frustrated, and he started to complain about certain aspects of his life, including his relationship and his kids and just things that were all over the place. And I let him talk. And finally I was like, hey, quick question. What are you doing? What are you doing for yourself? Well, no, that's not my purpose in life. I need to give and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, I understand how you were raised in your faith and all that stuff. And you want to be, I understand all that, but just seriously, what part of your day do you spend on yourself? Mm-hmm. What part of your day do you basically spend refilling your cup? We're just going to see this from different perspectives. That's not my purpose in life. My purpose. And I was like, and I had to kind of leave. I respect him. I respect him. Mm-hmm. But I told him I was there. I was that person. And as the moment I turned it around and said, Mark comes first. And I know people even hearing this right now is going to think, oh, that's selfish. That's not the way. It's absolutely not selfish. And a lot of people need to hear that they can prioritize their own health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, all that stuff. And it's going to help every other relationship in their life.
Mm-hmm. How do you balance that with your kids? So I was listening to, there was a podcast, one of your episodes, and you were talking about, how it's okay to not be okay and all the rest, which I absolutely agree with. How do you find the balance though of not allowing people to kind of wallow in it? Because I know I'm super empathetic too, and I can listen for days, but eventually I just want to go, oh my God, get over it. I know that's the worst thing to possibly say, or, oh my God, it's not that bad, and I think that's inherent in my nature too. I want everybody to be happy. I don't want people to wallow in their feelings. And listening to what you were saying, I felt really bad. I was like, oh my God, I'm probably so guilty of trying to put people in a good mood or give them totally unsolicited advice. How do you balance? Where do you find the balance with people?
This is, it's going to sound horrible. It's going to sound terrible, but I'm going to say it. I stopped caring.
Okay.
I literally
I don't think that's horrible.
Caring.
You have to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is,
Are you
remember. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember I used to care what people thought about me. I used to always want to leave a good, lasting impression. I always cared about making people happy, going out of my way to, and it's and so all that was leading me to was literally just fatigue, frustration, not taking care of myself. And and it got to the point where, in the political and socioeconomic climate that we're in, everything is thrown at you from different sides 24 hours a day. And I was like, yeah, I'm upset about that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. This makes me mad. And it's like, I got to a point where it's like, does any of this really affect me? Does any of it? And I think that is a question that a lot of us can ask ourselves and really be honest with that answer. Like, does any of this, and this kind of makes my sister upset a little bit, because she'll come to me and be upset about something that she saw on the news cycle or in the paper or on a page online. And I'll just have this response like, oh, okay, cool. And I don't mean to be cold. I don't mean to be anything like that. That's just my response now. That's just how I've kind of, trained myself, because if it doesn't have to do with my family, my money, or like me, or like the friends who I really care about, then I'm not going to really put that much emphasis on it. And it sounds terrible, but like we're raising 2 girls that are 10 and 8. Like, tell me that's not 23 and a half hours of 24.
Right.
Like, I apologize.
You guys, I got to prioritize.
Yeah. It's like, Mark, we need you to care about this. I'm like, wait a second, hold on. Nope. I got to go coach, or I got to go help them. And, and I figure as they see me making this transition where, hey, daddy's taking care of himself. Daddy's taking care of us. That's what we want to, like, we want to be like dad. Like, now, if I was away constantly and, hey girls, I got to do this, I got to do that, I'm not going to, I got to make sure this person's taken care of. And they see me just absolutely just sweating and fatigued and all over the place because I can't do something for all. And that was me. Like, I wanted to do everything for everybody, because and people take advantage of that. Unfortunately, they take advantage of that.
For sure.
They know that any situation they're in, hey, Mark, can you come get me? Hey, Mark, can I borrow some money? Hey, Mark, can you work this day for me? Hey, Mark, and it's like, yeah, of course I can. Yeah, of course. This person's going to like me. I'm going to get that. My boss is going to see what I'm doing. I'm going to get this raise. I'm going to get this promotion. And yeah, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you're not. So to answer your question, like, boundaries is not even the word anymore. It's like, it is like, it's like the yellow tape around my mental health,
the boundaries.
Like around my I call it protecting my peace. And I mean, do I fall out of it sometimes? Of course,
Yeah.
And I find myself in that space, and I say, oh, monkey brain, you got me again. Like, you got me again, but we're coming back. I don't beat myself up.
Yeah.
It's funny how people will say, oh, wow, just watching the news or all the political stuff, it just makes me so upset and so depressed. And you're like, okay, then you need boundaries around. Just don't watch the news.
Don't watch.
All the time. Like, it's like, why are you watching everything?
I know, because you just answered your own question.
Right,
like, you're saying, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Why are you stressed? Because I'm watching the news. Then don't watch the news.
Wow. And things they can't control. Like, they're so upset about things that they can't do anything about. Just like you said, you have to put boundaries around your time, what you invest your energy in, what you listen to, what you see, and what's really important in your life. And those are the main focuses, or they should be the main focus.
I can't remember if it was a previous guest or someone else I heard, but I've really tried to apply that this year. And it's, will this matter 5 minutes from now, 5 days from now, 5 years from now? And if it's not going to matter long term, I've really gotten much better this year at just brushing it off.
That was, I asked my sister, I don't really do New Year's resolutions, but I told my sister, I was like, hey, can you just do one thing for me? Like, one thing. Like, I don't ask much of you. I'm her trainer. So we go out but I was like, can you do one thing for me? I was like, can you not let outside forces bring you down? Is there a possibility you can not let external people, forces, whatever, put you in a bad or sour mood? Like, you control that. That's all I'm asking of you.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it since.
She's not told to do that. You're like, so, Mark's like, but I'm still positive. I'm in a positive mindset that she's listening, and she's put a boundary around you. She's like, no thanks. She's put you in like the caution tape.
You're in timeout.
But it is so true.
It's true. Or like things that you can't control is such a lesson to be learned about things that you stress about. Like, can you even really control or have any say in that? And sometimes you can.
But it takes that mental awareness to stop yourself, because I do think just as humans. And like Mark was saying, we're bombarded with just negativity and all this stuff. Like you feel like you're being made to be pulled down, but to have like the mental fortitude to just have that pause button.
Yeah.
And literally, like, sometimes you can just visualize it, like just visualize that pause button, hit it. And then if you just give yourself a couple moments to kind of reset before you go down the rabbit hole of chaos, it does make a big difference. And I think that's something that so many people need to hear, because like we were talking about, the world is a little negative. And whether it's social media, not even just the news and all of that stuff, but just what we see on social media, it does have a tendency to be geared towards negativity, whether it's internal thoughts, external thoughts. And like you were saying, just to hit the pause button and kind of just instantly pivot your thought process back to positive. Those little things, I do think it's a good step in the right direction. I mean, I know for myself personally, like that's how I've had to like try and focus on, turning away from all of that stuff.
So true.
It could be, I mean, we're talking about life changes and for people, we're talking about doing the exact opposite for some people. But when I look back at my life and I think about the arguments or disagreements or just bad, places I've been in with some of my relationships, whether that be family or friends, and the screaming, the yelling, and all that stuff. And then you look back and you're like, the whole time that really wasn't that serious. It really wasn't that. You don't know it in the moment. And I'm not telling people not to feel feelings. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But there is kind of this thought that I always have to like stick up for myself and defend I have to be, make sure they understand my point of view. And it's like, I really, again, I tell people all the time when I come to, I've done career days and I've talked to, Howard University to talk about, one of their business institutes when I was there talking about the insurance world, and I've given lectures or speeches in regard to mental health and sports. And one of the things I always lead with is like, you don't have to listen to a word I say. You don't have to care. Like, I am a Marc Paisant, and that's it. Like, I wish that you get something from this. I hope you get something from this, but don't put pressure on you, because what I see all the time is somebody will be in a dark place, or someone will be unhealthy, or someone will be unfit, overweight, whatever it is. Somebody wants to change something, and they will just attach to something. They will attach to, oh, this is the first video I saw. This person was unhealthy. Now they're healthy. Oh, first video I saw, this person was depressed, or they say they were, and now they're I'm going to do exactly what this person did. And what happens is that you get to day 2 and you don't kind of agree with it, but it's like, no, I said I was going to do it. This is the thing I'm sticking to. And I really want people to really go out and just find themselves, like really just find themselves. And because I wanted to be this star soccer player. I said, I'm going to do what this person is doing. And I was like, okay, do I do it? Do I not do it? And you get in that mental turmoil. And it's like, you listen to half of what I say, listen to some of what I say, listen to none of it. Say, I don't want to listen to Mark. That does not affect me. Like, I've been through it mentally and physically. That's why I tell people all the time, like, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm none of that. I am just a person who's been through it. And I'm just talking about my experiences. If I can help one person, then I am the happiest person in the world.
Do you still coach soccer?
I do. Both my daughters now play an academy team. So I don't coach them now, but I do one-on-one soccer coaching.
Amazing. Lucky kids.
I have a few high school kids right now that I train that are going to go and most likely play in college. And I tell people all the time, like, I don't train technical ability. I train confidence. Yes. It's a big difference.
I love that.
I do the same.
That's what you have to do. Yeah.
You have to, because it's everything. It really is
It
everything.
is.
If you have the confidence to do it, the technical ability will come. The talent doesn't always come, but the technical ability will come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all confidence.
Lisa's building up for you to sing here on the show.
We want you to sing with that incredible voice.
Give
Come
us
on
about
now.
5 minutes and you're going to be right there.
I will give you the confidence to do it, Mark.
That's okay. None of us have done that yet either. You're good. Just
This is my
listen.
podcast mic. My singing mic is yeah.
Mark, let's just see how far you've come.
It's so funny. It's actually probably good though that you don't coach your kids' teams because I've heard so many nightmares about that kind of. I don't know.
Well, so here's the thing. Like I coached my oldest daughter. I coached her in soccer for I think 3 seasons, and I coached her in basketball for 2. She's the one that literally, like, if you throw a ball at her, she's like, let's just go do, like, whatever it is, football, basketball. So let's go do it. And the other one is she just plays soccer right now, but she's very good. She's just like, she's our little princess. She's like, she's bigger and stronger than everybody, but it's like, oh, if I knock you down, let me pick you. I'm like, oh, I like, don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose that.
But we got to
But
score.
still-
Yeah. It's such a hard balance when it comes to sports. Like, oh.
But I'm like, I love youth coaching because I think I forgot the show I was on, but there's a lot of coaches I've coached like really good teams where it's like we should win every game. I've coached the team that like doesn't win any games, and I've coached, but I think most coaches need to really focus on that middle ground. Like that's where like it. Don't even try to get to that 10-0, 12-0, whatever perfect season, whatever. Like no one remembers. No one remembers. And I apologize. Like there's no tournament that an 8-year-old can win that's going to set them up for life. I apologize. I'm sorry
it's
about
true.
No.
But it's
So-
I don't know if you've seen this though, but some parents who they have to live vicariously through their kids, and I tell them,
No, that's
and
the
I hear
biggest nightmare.
So many of my like people in adolescents and even children in sports, they'll be like, I really don't want to play this, but my parents are making, and I'm like, you know, and I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, this is your sport. I'm not living vicariously through you. I had my day of doing whatever. You pick your sport, you pick what you're going to do. But it's very sad to hear those kids who, you know, I've had parents come in like they have like all this potential and they can be on the pre-Olympic team. And then the kid's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm done. I don't want to do 8 hours a day of literally soccer or whatever it is. So it's great that you acknowledge like even the teams that are kind of that middle ground. It's important, like not only what they learn, but what you learn as a coach, because you learn a lot in that process as well.
We ask our kids every year after, you know, if they start a season, they have to finish it. That's it. That's the only
Oh,
rule
yes.
we
I agree
have.
with
Yep.
that. Yeah, I do agree with that.
But after every season, we're like, hey, do you still want to play? Do you want to try something else? Do you want to try this? And they make their decision. If, you know, my daughter has a basketball playoff game tomorrow. I mean, she's 10. You know, I have to coach it because the coach is out of town, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. Like I'm really, really happy about it. But I just, you know, we ask them like, you know, but I think they're to that point, kids are quitting organized sports by the age of 16 at higher rates than ever before.
Yeah.
And I wish I had the data in front of me for the numbers, but the main 2 reasons, and the first one is obvious. The pressure.
Yeah,
The pressure.
burnout.
That's the first one. And the second one is because kids are specializing in sports at a younger age. So kids are playing a single sport and specializing it younger than they ever did before. You know, when I was playing, we played soccer and basketball. We had friends that played baseball too. And we had kids that played multiple sports, football. And now, you know, I met one of the former pitchers for the Atlanta Braves. Wasn't Mark? It may have been Mark Wohlers. I think it was. And he basically was saying like for kids to grow up in the baseball system now, you basically have to like quit every other sport, play baseball, get on this travel team, pay this money to go to these all-star tournaments and showcases and play year round. And pitchers are blowing out their arms and having Tommy John. And it's like, okay, no, like none of my kids are doing that.
Right.
Unless one comes to me and is like, Dad, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to, for instance, my neighbor, their child does ice skating, and that's a sport that you literally, it's year round.
Yeah.
You have to find the space to do it. So she's up training like 6 a.m. and there's no other time for her doing it, but she loves it. Like, and she is amazing. She's a natural talent. I can only imagine the kids that aren't natural talents, that parents are pushing them in there.
Yeah, because it's such a small percentage of kids in sports that make it to that next level. And I know my husband was in sports all of his life. My boys play sports, but his big thing was always, it's the life lessons you learn in those sport events. It's not pushing a child to go to the next level. Because I think it's like 1 or 2% of high school. And I'm from a football family, so my husband played football and my boys play football. But like for a football player in high school to get to a D1 school was like 1 or 2%. And like, that was the thing my husband always said, is like, he remembers it's the life lessons that, and he was a coach, but the life lessons that you teach these, for football, these kids, because more than likely that's not in their cards. Yeah. But the things that, like, I know with him, I mean, he was raised by a single mom and his coaches were his dad. Like, that's where he learned those, the boundaries and the respect and the work ethic. He got it from his mom too. So if she's listening, Dee Dee, I'm including you. But it is, like you were saying, it's crazy how it's made that shift from this, just learning work ethic and working with the team and how you have to work together to have success. And it's not just one player, to now these parents, Pam, like you were saying, they're now all invested and they didn't make it to that level. So now their kid's going to make it to that level and their kid's miserable. And that's what's so sad, because I do think that there's such valuable lessons, life lessons in sports.
Right.
And so 100%.
And the arts. I'm just
no. Well, okay. Well, we all know that I am not artistic in any kind of,
but you see that there too, though. Some of us. No, but you see that there too. People who are like,
the stage moms. The stage moms, the dance moms and stuff. I can just only talk about football because that's what I'm a football mom.
I'm just saying some of us are not sporty.
Mark is like, how in the world did I get on this podcast?
I love it. I love it. And you asked me about, like, you talked about the self-awareness at the beginning, and it's like, I think that's missing sometimes with some people, that self-awareness. It's like, I'm gonna throw my kid into this and everyone is going to notice me at the end of it. It's like,
it's just sad. I feel like, it's
sad.
Yeah, it is.
I had a client years and years and years ago, so nobody will know. But he, but there was like a lot of negativity and anxiety and negative voice and all that. And then we talked, I don't know, like probably 3 or 4 sessions later, and it finally came out like, I used to play a sport, and my dad actually got kicked out from coming to even watch the sport anymore because he was so, animated and would like
animated. That's being kind, right?
Yell at the referees, and I'm like, wait, what? Just like, and it was so embarrassing, and it was embarrassing for me, and I just thought, wow. I mean, it just, people don't realize their actions, like how much it impacts, even at a very young age. An athlete, a singer, anybody in any field. If you're, that intense, it just has such a negative outcome.
Well, we pivoted a lot from
I know
being
we
vulnerable,
did.
but I think that it's been a lot of.
This is how our podcast goes.
But it's but that's so true. I'll never forget though when my daughter cheered and she was like 6 years old, like the little cute youth. Nobody's on like a travel team. It's just like a youth kind of thing. And literally, we're at this game and the police come and they're standing on both sides. They're like, every year at this game, there's like a huge fight. And so the police have to come to this game and I'm like, wait, what? This isn't a high school game. This is like a youth team.
You're like, we're at T-ball.
And she's 6. So what am I putting my daughter in to like do right now? Yeah, it was, but it that's the truth.
Okay, so those parents,
crazy.
men, wives, they need therapy. Right, Mark? They need some self-awareness. They need to listen to Mark's podcast. They need to talk to Dr. Pam,
Go
and they
see
need
Mark.
to get right with God. Like, this is just awful.
Wrong. Yep. But that's true. I'm like, it's 6 years old.
Crazy.
Yeah, people have lost their mind.
I think that everyone.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we have so pivoted.
Well, I'm trying to reel us in here. So I think though, like everything we've talked about has been just people chilling out, and not letting. Dealing with anxiety. Obviously, some parents really needed to deal with some anxiety or aggression or depression or a combination of both.
True.
But I think just being vulnerable to say when you need help. I think that having empathy towards other people and thinking about how that's going to make their kid feel when they're yelling at the referee, or if you're snapping at the waitress because your food didn't come when she's just busy trying to. I think that just thinking about other people's feelings and also dealing with your own and being aware of your feelings and knowing when you need to ask for help and maybe when you need to talk to others that maybe they need help too.
Yeah, back to what you said about your daughters see you putting yourself first and dealing with things on your own and putting boundaries up, and that's more like seeing you do that is more powerful than you telling them what to do.
Yeah, because they're seeing you healthy. Like they're seeing healthy emotion.
Yeah, and the thing about the whole how this all connects and the self-awareness or the vulnerable getting out there is like it's people need to understand that, and I don't know if understand is the right word, but people need to, especially parents a lot of times with sports, like your kid is not that good.
They need an honest reflection.
Like listen, I will, and it's so refreshing sometimes to talk to a parent and they tell me, hey, I'm just trying to get her to make the team or get him, like he really wants to play. He's not one of the best. He just wants to, and it's like, I can work with that.
Yeah.
Right.
I can work with that.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, like, again, a lot of this has to do with, and I will always go back to this word. I will always go back to empathy, because I've been a coach. I've been a player. I've been a referee. I have done assistant coach, a spectator. In these youth games, every person that's involved in it, I've been the commissioner of a boys basketball league. I've been the person that parents have to call and complain about the coach. I've been in every one of those positions. So when I talk to somebody in that position now, I know exactly what they're going through, what they could possibly be going through. And the only reason people talk to referees the way they talk to them is because they've never been a referee.
Right.
The only reason
That's
a person
so true.
yells at a server at a restaurant is because they've never been a server at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the greatest, barometers of a type of person that you are or that you're with, is how they handle that situation when their food comes out incorrectly or late.
Absolutely.
And the first time, and this is a memory I have, the first time that happened to my dad, it's okay, things happen, still tip the person.
Yep.
And I remember those things. Like those are things I remember as when I was a small kid. Okay, that's how I treat somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I do it. Now, did my dad get upset with people? Of course he did. But it was always followed by like an explanation to my brother and I. Like my dad was really good and still really good about like explaining his behavior so we understand it. My mother, God rest her soul, she would fly off the handle. It was hilarious. I mean, I laugh
There's
about
usually
it now.
one of each in the family.
Yeah.
And I remember just like she got like some gift late and she's getting upset with this woman on the phone, and my brother and I like, Mom, she didn't sell it to you. Like she's literally the customer service. Like, she didn't sell it to you. So, but yeah, it's just having the ability to understand that things are. I do this thing where I understand that things aren't going to always go like they're supposed to. Actually, most of the time they're not going to.
Yeah.
That's what makes this fun. And I understand that I'm not going to be right most of the time. Like I might not be right any of the time, but the fact of the matter is that it opens up my critical thinking. And if I say to myself, okay, Mark, you're not right in regard to this, then whether I am or I'm not, I start to like think about other ways, like start critical thinking, start getting other people involved, because I want other people to be involved. I've been a leader, I've been a manager, I've been a supervisor, and it's like, I don't want to make all these decisions. Like I want people to make them themselves. Now, if you ask me when I first started becoming a manager, I was like, we got to do it this way. I'm going to change the world. Like everything is, I got all these ideas, and it's like, calm down. Like, calm down. You're going to give yourself high blood pressure. Calm down.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time.
Oh my gosh, this has been amazing.
Yes, you are amazing. You're a fellow Georgian too. We're all here in Georgia as well, so that's pretty cool. And I was joking before we started talking to you about your voice, because I love the Calm app. And Matthew McConaughey reads me a bedtime story every night I fall asleep. And I said, this guy's voice, he could definitely read a bedtime story. Put me
All right,
to sleep
so
on
Mark,
Calm.
we want you on the Calm app, okay?
Yep.
That's going to be, you're going to
New job. You need to.
And a
Isn't that
lullaby
great?
album.
Oh my God. The Calm app is amazing. It's like, I put it on once in like 30 seconds. I was like, who is reading this? Like, this is the greatest.
Okay, well, you need to be on it.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
We're going to start a movement here.
Yes.
I know.
Thank you so much for being
I
with
know,
us
and
this
thank you
evening.
for what you do. You keep doing it because it matters.
Good luck to you tomorrow coaching into your daughter.
Yes.
I know.
Good luck in the game. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mark.
you. I
Have a great
appreciate
night.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
He's pretty awesome.
Loved him.
I just would like to, I could just hang out with him.
He's the cutest guest we've had so far.
Oh my gosh.
That's super sweet.
Such a sweetheart.
He's
Just
a
like you can
good guy.
feel
Full of
how
knowledge.
genuine he is.
So nice.
Plus his voice.
Yes.
So I
Okay, well,
think
there
he
is
can
that
sing.
too.
It's just nice to talk to somebody who's so calm. Like,
And
every
like
delivery.
inherent. It's
Yeah,
like they
it's
didn't
just
teach
inherent.
themselves to, and not that there's anything wrong with that at all. Because I mean, you got to get there one way or the other, but to just be inherently self-aware, calm, searching to be better.
Yeah.
So,
Nice man.
yeah.
Super sweet.
Well, cheers to
Cheers to Mark.
Yes.
Yes.
Mark.
Thank you for joining the ladies of the Middle AGEish podcast as they journey through the ups and downs of this not young, but definitely not old season of life. To hear past episodes or make suggestions for future episodes, visit www.middleageish.com. That's www.middleageish.com. You can follow along on social media at Middle AGEish. Also, if you have a moment to leave a review, rate, and subscribe, that helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Middle AGEish podcast.